Thanks for tuning in to Totally Not a Podcast, our new weekly show where we review each and every new Dragon Ball Daima episode.
It's a podcast.
It is, and I have arrived, and I've showered.
When was your
shower? Do I not look the exact same? Huh? Half an hour ago?
Oh, nice.
Oh, wow, this is character development.
I had to go to the gym. Super late, all right? Whatever.
Well, welcome back, guys. We have a pretty dense episode this week. I feel like we might fight a little bit, even though we all enjoyed it. I just have a sense that there's so much in this episode, from all of the lore dumps to the direction that was there to the outcome of certain setups. Well, there's so much to talk about. Do you think we'll fight? Did we like this episode? Let's start there.
I loved it. What the fuck are you talking about? People didn't like this episode.
I love this episode. This was my favorite episode of the bunch. Like, genuinely my favorite Daima episode. So good I watched it twice. Just adored it from start to finish. But I know that Tyson had some issues with it because he came running to my DMs and I had a heart attack and was like, oh no, is there something wrong with me?
Okay, we're misrepresenting me a little bit. I had just a couple of funny little notes about the editing and direction around the editing specifically. I think the episode's great.
The editing?
I think it's a great episode.
Hang on. What the fuck kind of nerdy fucking nitpick is that? The editing of the episode? Excuse me.
There
what
is
the hell?
absolutely no way that Totally Not Mark, the man that writes 3-hour-long essays about like a 10-episode anime, is about to tell me I'm being too nerdy.
Hang on. I do it because I feel like I'm being forced to do it by a massive audience that just wants me to do things.
That's not true.
This is your opinion. Where does this go? We're going to get into this, obviously. Okay. AJ likes it. I really like it. You like it with a caveat.
No.
Okay.
I think the episode's great.
Where do you guys want to start with this episode? Because there's a lot to talk about.
I think it makes the most sense to start with Majin Buu, because holy fuck did we have so much chat about, oh my god, what could he be? Oh, he might have different transformations, and oh, he's gonna go and fight the Tamagami and might absorb him, and there was so this motherfucker is a fraud. He doesn't care.
Okay, so I have been going completely radio silent on Twitter for probably the last 2.5 weeks. I did, however, hear through the grapevine, people had like problems with Majin Buu. This was before I even knew what his fucking name was, to be perfectly clear and transparent, by the way. People were having issues with this character before he did anything. And then when it was revealed that he wasn't a big deal, that he's a gag character, I felt vindicated in thinking that everyone that was sharing an opinion on him before they even saw him speak or do something are stupid. So that's my take on the reaction to Majin Buu. Majin Buu was never supposed to be that guy, and he's perfect for it. He's beautiful the way he is. And I really liked him in this episode.
He's great.
He's just a chill little guy.
I think, though we did discuss a lot about Majin Buu in the last episode, I actually think that all of us kind of landed on a consensus close to what he was. Because by the end of the episode, if you'll recall, we were kind of all interested in the concept of, instead of him being the big bad, what if he's just like a tambourine, drum, Demon King Piccolo type mook, and he just won in a list, which seems like that very much might be the case. So despite all our talk, I don't think we were that off base in the end. I
actually do have one criticism for this week's episode, and it is entirely superfluous and entirely my own thing, but like last week we were kind of discussing, I was like, oh, what will his moveset be? What kind of way will he fight? Because they have like so much freedom with Daima in expressing different personalities and traits from different things through animation. There's just so much time for it. And I thought, oh, wouldn't it be fucking cool if we had like because he's kind of like half Majin Buu, half like Cyberman, wouldn't it be cool if we got some kind of amalgamation of both of their movesets into that thing? And I thought, like, we didn't get that much Cyberman stuff back in the Saiyan Saga, but they did enough to actually create their, like, they did things that were unique to them, like the whole acid heads thing, or like or like the exploding thing. Now, obviously, I wouldn't want Majin Buu, the glorious being that he is, to be blown up. That's a step too far even for me. But I was waiting for him to do the acid head thing, because, oh my god, that would have been so cool. But it didn't happen. It didn't happen, and that actually, that was the only part of the entire episode where I was like, aw, that's a missed opportunity. But yeah.
I mean, you're not wrong, but he did like jump in the air and dance and run like a monkey.
Jump in the air and dance was not part of the Cybermen moveset. I wanted a bit of that in there.
Sorry. He's just a fun mix. I'm gonna be completely honest. It would have been cool if he jizzed out his head instead of doing a mouth beam. But like,
see, yeah, because everyone does a fucking mouth beam. Do you know who did a mouth beam in the Saiyan saga? Nappa, and he looks nothing like him.
I have no rebuttal to that. That's completely fair.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah.
But in terms of the actual fighting and animation and stuff, it was sick. I really loved it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was an interesting mix because I think like for a lot of this series, something we've been really praising is that like, oh, you know, it's all been like quite unique martial arts choreography or whatever. And then this came along and it was like, oh, we're actually doing some like traditional sort of Dragon Ball action, but then they're also like weaving in the goofy movement. Like it felt like a really fun hybrid of approaches, I thought. I don't know if anyone else felt the same, but yeah, I really enjoyed the fight. It was really well
I think the fight was really sick. And had some really awesome action and great.
God, I can feel it coming.
art.
I can feel his hatred for the freaking bit already. I can feel it in the way he's speaking. Sorry,
I love Majin Buu. And
I'm waiting
AJ
for a butt.
has
You know there's a butt coming.
AJ has grossly misrepresented my opinion of this episode. I loved this episode. I thought it was a great episode.
You tolerated this episode. Don't you fucking lie to me. Sorry.
The only but I was going to say with this is, and it didn't even bother me, it just reminded me of our earlier conversation. I think this fight is a lot closer for me to AJ's complaints on the Tamagami fights, where like even within the like meta textual like fight itself, nothing really happens story, character, plot wise. It really is for the most part until the very end where he gives up, just Majin Buu and Tamagami number 1 wailing on each other for a while. And again, I'm fine with that. I think it's cool to just have some guys wail on some people sometimes, especially because it was...
You're saying that you're fine with that because it doesn't sound like you're fine with that. It sounds like you're making a criticism of the show.
Well, yeah, yeah.
No, I do get what you mean. I think the reason that I was fine with this compared to say the Tamagami fight is that this is essentially like a background note of the episode. Like it's 3 segments chopped up, really. And it's kind of just a joke. Whereas I think for me, I was more bothered by the Tamagami aspect because it was like that was the focus of the episode.
No, yeah. They're very different functionally, and that's of course why this doesn't bother me at all. I did just think it's a perhaps a even better and more potent example of that sort of thing than the Tamagami fight, where really and truly this just acts as like a background like action set piece, which is sick.
I don't even know if it necessarily only functions that way. You could definitely make the argument, and I would agree that like the fight itself doesn't communicate a lot in terms of the actual story here and now. But it kind of like it does further the story of Arinsu and her whole deal. Like obviously there's some sort of balance that she needs to strike between like being able to control him versus having him or granting him the power necessary to enact his plan, to enact her plan rather. And I obviously, given the way that he responds to Arinsu here and now, it's very much like, oh, he desperately wants to be in her life. He's so subservient to her that it just communicates to us, okay, there's a whole lot of room that she has here with this character to allow him to be stronger to, eventually get the Dragon Ball from this guy. Like there are those elements of the story communicated, all right, and it does make like it does again sell us on the idea that she's got to go back to the drawing board now and create another character or modify him to some capacity. So
yeah, and that's why I said up until the bit at the end where he's just like, I give up, and then he loses. Like that's a whole separate
kind of part
thing.
of the entire story, though. Yeah, right. Okay,
right.
But,
I'm just talking about the fight itself, because that was AJ's primary critique of the Tamagami fight. Was within the minutes of the fight itself, the actual like metatextual story that was unfolding and being told was very minimal. And so I was saying this is just like that to the extreme, where in terms of the actual fight itself before it loses, really all that we get here is just cool action, which again is totally fine.
I will say, now that you have explained that, I understand, and that's fair. That is a fair criticism. Fair enough.
I think it's sick.
No, because he's pretty much taking your argument from the other thing. If you didn't agree with him, you would be de facto saying that you were wrong earlier.
Well, no,
Checkmate,
I don't.
gamer.
No.
I am the only person here so
just
far on
kidding.
the stream that hasn't had an unpopular opinion. So just make of that what you will.
I don't necessarily agree, but I understand, and I think it's valid. Look at us getting along nicely.
I disagree.
Well, god damn it.
There was just so much room in this fight for like expression and all that kind of stuff. Like, I mean, I think even when I was watching your video on like the animation breakdown of this fight, AJ, there was even a point where you mentioned that the person behind some of a particular cut in the Majin Buu fight asked the I'm not sure which visual director he was asking, but he was asking basically, could I include him falling just to kind of sell a bit more of character? There was so much pushed into this fight in terms of communicating character. Why couldn't they just do the big head, the big head penis thing? It would have been so fun. It would have been so cool. It would have been iconic, dare I say.
It would have been cool. Yeah. I mean, for people who didn't watch my video, basically, there was a German animator on the show called Levent who was in charge of the cut where Ku does that weird like monkey run towards the screen. And the original storyboard was literally just like running at the Tamagami. That was it. But the animator was like, well, can I make this more fun? Can I like have him jump over the rubble and like do like a funky dance or something like to really push the personality? And the director of the episode was like, abso-fucking-lutely, yes. And so he was allowed to do that. And one of the chief animation supervisors for the episode in the cut through was like, well, that's cool, but what if we also had him like stick his tongue out and do like crazy stuff like that? Like it was just like a real big sort of collaborative effort with the animation staff to make Ku just really fun visually, which I think worked really well. I think that was definitely like the thing that came across the most for me in this fight. Like I think Tyson is right in the sense that like there's no like the fight is not presented, I think intentionally so, like it's supposed to be some tense thing against the Tamagami, but I think like it's just fun. It's a funny cutaway that I'm sure if you like looked at the minutes, it's probably like 2 minutes of screen time. It has like 2-3 cutaways throughout the episode, and I think it was fun and a fun subversion, and like I think it's a very Toriyama thing to do. I mean, we say this all the time with Daima, but like to introduce Ku as he's the big scary bad. He's made up of Majin Buu and a Saibai man, and oh my god, big dramatic cliffhanger next episode. Oh, he fucking sucks.
Talking about this has made me realize, because he is like a joy to watch. He's such a silly fighter, perhaps almost as much as like Kid Buu. And I was wondering, like, okay, so he's clearly not the big bad, but I don't think he's just going to go away. Who can he fight that gives the best contrast to his silly nature? And I think given both character and like power scaling concerns, I could really see this guy fighting Piccolo, and I think that would be really funny.
Oh, that would be a great like wraparound,
Yeah.
I don't know if it would make a lot of sense because, I mean, okay, obviously there's no way to kind of like power scale this entire thing because we have no idea how strong Tamagami 1 is in relation to Tamagami 2, Tamagami 3 rather. So it would be interesting insofar as he could put up any fight to those characters at all. I would argue probably the most likely outcome, the most likely character for him to contend with would be someone like Glorio, because he's no nonsense and he's also weaker. So I think I think that tracks. It could.
That's
be
a good shout.
That could happen.
I picked Piccolo because, like, at the end of the Buu arc, obviously Piccolo is still super strong, but he's several orders of magnitude weaker than Goku or Vegeta. So I think if it turned out that way, that would be totally fine and plausible. But I do think you might be even more onto something with Glorio, because he has that same like stoic, no nonsense business. And
he would also like. I feel like that could also happen, like, because they're both working for Arinsu, but Glorio's more inclined to kind of like sway the other way. So that's another one of my trademark predictions right there. Enjoy those.
He did steal from me for the most part.
If you insist.
I think that's fair. Well, with that out the way, we do head over to the Goku gang, who have now made their way into the second world finally. I'm going to give Tyson this opportunity here to talk about the edit, because I will say, as much as I adored this episode, there is one scene here where, okay, the editing is very stupid. And it's where
I didn't notice it.
They roll up on the warp summer fish thing, and there's like a really weird fade, and then suddenly they're in the next thing, and it fades again. It's very strange.
It's like 1 second later.
Yeah, it's like it's very short, and I don't think it like impacts the episode in a meaningful way. But it was like, huh? What?
I definitely just let the record show. I definitely didn't notice this. And I think it says more about them than it does the show.
No, it's
that they noticed it.
Even by
I'm a
regular
well-adjusted
TV
human
standards, it's quite an odd edit. It's like
I would not be surprised if I went back and looked for it. I had noticed, but I didn't notice it when I was watching it originally.
there's just there's a lot of plot lines being contended with here, and cutting between that can be difficult. I do not think all of the cuts from A to C to B to D were super elegant, and so that mixed with some of the other crazy cuts like the fades to black, I don't know, that was my only criticism of this episode, was it felt like there was some weird energy on the cutting room floor that was happening. But other than that, really great episode. I feel like
you mentioned that there's this episode was like filled with like a load of different plot lines running concurrently, and I think it's been sort of this trend now, I feel, ever since maybe episode 8, where the last few episodes have really like, you know, stepped it up in terms of pacing. Like I'm super into like this pace of a show. It feels like a more of a seasonal anime now, where it's getting through large sections of story, or at least it feels like we're getting through a meaningful amount of material. It doesn't really feel like we're just, you know, getting bogged down with our 7th or 8th breakdown, which there was another one in this episode, by the way. We have to talk about that. But like, the progression of the story does feel like it's kind of like chugging along now, and especially with the advent of this other enemy team going after their own Dragon Balls, it does lead me to believe that there's going to be one less substantial major boss fight than we initially thought, and so that kind of again brings down the scope of the series to maybe a more manageable length, seeing as now we're at the halfway point, right, roughly.
So all of this time, right, we've been going 2020 because it was based on when One Piece was coming back, right? And of course, you know, we hear like rumors here and there. I believe it's the Latin American voice of Goku a year ago in this random little article was like, so I'm doing this Dragon Ball Daima thing that's 20 episodes long. So there you go. Someone dug that up the other day, and I was like,
that's hilarious.
Well, there we go.
Thank you, Latin American Goku.
Yeah, so we're halfway through the series now, and you're right that the pacing has picked up massively, and that's addressed one complaint. And this episode also addressed another complaint that we had, which was that, wait, why does Goku not give a shit about Dende? But he does. We get a scene here where where Goku is like, well, I'm kind of worried about Dende. What do we do? And you know, we've been bullying Goku this entire time, being like, well, why doesn't he care about Dende? I think it's Shin. Shin doesn't give a fuck. Shin steps in here and he's like, no, I said it before. They abducted him. They didn't kill him. They probably need him. It'll be fine. Like,
yeah.
I think Shin is the guy who doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Shin is.
But like he did again, this was important. And it's only a small thing, but like they did actually make sure to mention that, you know, I mentioned this already before. This has been the known thing. Anyone that has a problem with it just wasn't listening before. So like this is just like reiterating for the people in the back that just weren't listening. Like Goku. So
like Mark.
Like me.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we knew this, but I would say that like they mentioned later on, Shin does drop that like, you know, the background of this world, you know, Namekians were slaves. And so I guess this does at least like set a precedent for why Shin is thinking this way, rather than just like making a bizarre presumption. He's just like, well, no, this is kind of what they do here. This is how Namekians are treated.
I think that's probably the most important part of this for me, because this isn't the first time that we've circled back to this whole does Goku care thing. They've brought it up a few times throughout these episodes, but every time up until now, our take has kind of been, they're addressing it, but it's in like such a hand-wavy fashion that it doesn't necessarily feel satisfying as an explanation. But not only have we once again looped back and made it clear that this is the intent, but we've expounded upon it by being like, there is a storied history in the demon world of how like Namekians are treated, and they are very valuable. They were literally basically just used as slaves. He's fine. And that I think makes it way better of an explanation.
Yeah, I totally agree. But I think where this episode really cemented itself as my favorite so far was with what the B team were up to. We moved from this segment right through to Hybis just routinely bullying Vegeta once again. It is the greatest part of this show. Not only was he bullying him for being an arrogant prick the other episode, now he's like, I'm just going to steal your wife. Like, I don't care. I can work with that. That's fine. I absolutely destroyed me. Genuinely laughed so hard. Far and away my favorite joke of the show so far.
It's weird, though. Again, Dragon Ball is a comedy and it always has been. But for whatever reason, maybe it's because it doesn't translate for me very well when I'm reading, or it didn't really land for me when I was watching the show initially. But this show is just consistently really hitting the mark, for me anyway, when it comes to comedy. It in this scene, Vegeta is canonically confirmed to be a boob guy.
Which is awesome.
That's the kind of exposition and like expansion on lore that I've needed. And I don't even like smut, but like that was really funny.
Yeah. I do also like the line where Vegeta like goes back at him and he's like, "Shut up, we're already married." And Hybis's response is, "Oh, I don't mind."
So
that's not a problem for me.
Yeah, like I think what makes Hybis an interesting foil that I wouldn't have anticipated being a great foil for Vegeta is that Vegeta is very insecure and loud about it, whereas Hybis is like the most secure character I think I've ever seen in Dragon Ball. You can't really say anything to him without like without him just kind of like brushing it off or like being completely nonchalant of it. So like I'm a huge fan of that. Like he's already found a way to make his like establish his own niche within the group, and I already know that whatever thing comes after Daima, I'm going to miss this character profoundly.
Absolutely. He is my favorite character in the show. I adore him so much. Like he's so unbothered, and like he's not a pushover though, because like there's a segment later where like I think what's Piccolo say, like, oh yeah, maybe Glorio can drive the plane, and Hybis is like, is that a dig at me? And Bulma's like, no, like he just knows the area, it's fine. And Hybis is like, oh,
yeah, true.
Just it's like, yeah, fair. Like that's Hybis to a T, and I just adore it. Oh my god, honestly, I could sit here for 3 hours and talk about how much I love Hybis.
There's even a third one of those in this very episode where like when the B team does arrive in the second world and they're like trying to escape from this Kraken, and they're like, what are you doing? They're like trying to flame him for driving so low near the Kraken, and he's like, I don't know what you want from me. This is my first time coming here. This is not my problem.
And he just says it so like just casually, like he could be in the heat of the most dire of circumstances. He's like, yeah, you know what? This isn't actually an ideal situation, but you know, it's my first time here, so what are you going to do? That's his vibe the entire time. It's great.
Well, following this, we do jump back to Goku, and we get, I guess, what is the proper set piece of this episode, which was not Majin Buu versus the Tamagami, but in fact, Goku versus the military police and Goku versus a Kraken. There was so much that happened across the middle of this episode. How did we feel about this? I really enjoyed this as a set piece.
What number car crash are we on now with this?
We do surely need to talk about the fact that they did crash the plane.
I think it's the 9th.
It's at least
no
the 8th,
way.
maybe
It
the
can't
9th.
be the 9th. It cannot be the 9th, really.
It can be, because I remember back in episode 7, we were talking about, we've had 5 crashes out of 7 episodes, and we've had at least 3 or 4 since then. I do want to also mention, I really love that we've returned back to what is now like a multi-series running gag of Goku smearing his face on like against glass and making funny faces. This is like he did it in Broly, he did it in the DBS manga, he's done it here. There might be a 4th time, I don't remember. It's funny every time.
Yeah, it's just an absolute goblin. Like just with the 2, like his traditional Dragon Ball nose just vanishes, and it's just like, okay.
Oh yeah, 2 little nose dots,
pig nose.
I mean, it really is. Goku is like a demon goblin from hell to these people. He just shows up. He's like 2 foot tall, rolls up and murders or incapacitates everyone nearby at the drop of a hat.
I do like though that they have like nice cutaways as well as like, you know, periodically to the events in like Realm 1 with Degasu and Goma, just because they don't really have anything yet to kind of like sink their teeth into. They haven't really been doing anything. They're just kind of waiting on Dende to, I guess, grow up. So like it is kind of nice just kind of like watching their reaction to the events of Goku and everybody. And obviously then we got the kind of like bit of information then on their end that they're gonna pretty much cut their losses in this world and pull everyone to Realm 1 or World 1, which, you know, is perfectly in keeping with their character, but gives me the kind of like indication then that we're not actually going to be spending a whole lot of time in this realm for two reasons. There's no pushback from the military police, which would have been the primary one. And two, there's no sort of, I'm getting the impression that there's less of a criminality sort of element to this area as well. So like in terms of what can hold them back, we're looking at the Kraken and them crashing a car, which I hope that's their quota for this realm. But it could also just mean, to me anyway, it's saying that they might only be here for like another episode or two and before they move on. But that could also be wrong. Who knows?
Yeah, I think like including Gomar and Degasu like has the potential to like bog down an episode like this. But I think, you know, if we think about some of the criticisms we had, I mean, I think we spoke about it last episode, in fact, that like they kind of just vanished, these two.
Yeah.
We saw them in episode 1, and then they just kind of fucked off, and we did our own little thing in World 3 for ages and didn't have too much to do with them at all. So I think just being reminded that they exist again is good. So I think that worked really well.
I also really liked the bit in the, like, when he had to rescue, actually, okay, this was my favorite part of the fucking scene. I don't know, I'm glad I'm talking about it now, because I don't think either of you were, but okay, so one of my big, not to bring up GT again, but whatever, one of my biggest gripes with Pan is that like her entire character amounted to just a thing that would get in trouble, so that Goku would then have a reason to jump into action and participate in whatever the fuck, right? Just to create conflict. And there's a place for a character like that, but the mechanism by which she got into trouble always spoke negatively about her character, whether it be her naivety or her ignorance or her inability to be anything but a childish brat. Different things like that were always the mechanism through which she got into conflict, and that gave Goku an agency and like something to do in the plot. That was half good, half of it was not so good in my opinion. What I liked about Pansy in this is the mechanism that created the conflict was her being the only one responsible and cognizant enough to go and save the fucking Dragon Ball. Yeah. That made me love her, that made me love Goku, and that also created a brilliant scene.
Yeah, I absolutely adored this. This was my favorite moment of the episode too. Not just from the perspective that you just gave, which is incredibly valid. Like, yeah, Pansy with like real agency like that.
It was incredibly valid. Yes, thank you.
But I just really liked it from a direction point of view. Like it felt genuinely tense, which is such a silly thing to say because like this shouldn't be tense, right? Like it's a Kraken in the second world, and Goku like surely should be fine with this.
Well, right? Goku said he wasn't.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, like later in the episode, like we suddenly get this idea that none of them are powerful enough for this. Like this Kraken is stronger than the Tamagami. Like I found that a little hard to reconcile, but at the same time, I just thought it was sold so well that I genuinely cared. Like I think that's a testament to how well done the character work is in the show.
I feel like what could be afoot here, and this is how I interpreted it. So again, this is completely subjective, but I kind of interpreted it such that like it's not something that he can handle right now, not necessarily because it's more powerful than the Tamagami, but because it's so much larger and more difficult to contend with, because it offers a very different dynamic in terms of combat. It's not just I felt like Dragon Ball after a certain point just became a thing like, is your number bigger than this number? Then you win, blah. But I feel like now it's kind of like, or at least I intuited it such that like, okay, this is a big, massive squid that's like pretty much 3 or 4 times the size of the arena he fought Tamagami 3 on. So like it's probably going to come with it, like, you know, a lot of different things that wouldn't have been applicable and that he couldn't, and that he might not have been able to deal with. Who knows?
I think that's fair as long as you forget that everyone in like this main team is capable of like blowing up entire planets with relative ease.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I think it's fine. like, it was enough watching this episode in terms of like, wow, why are they so scared of this? Where it was like somewhere in the back of my mind, my brain was like, oh yeah, that's a little odd, isn't it? But other than that, I think it's directed and boarded well enough that it sells like the excitement of this sequence.
That's definitely where I am with it. Like, yes, it doesn't really make much sense. We're not strong enough for it. I mean, it's Goku, Vegeta, and Piccolo, and other people who are also very strong. Like, I don't think this would have been an issue, really. But, like, it's fine. I think it probably would have landed better if they spoke about it more from, like, a logistical point of view. Like, you've got Bulma there. You've got Pansy there. Like, how do you even manage this with these this limited number of ships that you have that keep exploding every episode? Like, I think that probably would have solved it a little bit better. But you're right. Like, the actual the way that the sequence was put together sold it wonderfully. Like, I don't think we get very many big giant monster fights like this in Dragon Ball anymore.
No.
This is like super classic stuff. It makes me think of like the squid in the cave and the Red Ribbon arc. You know, it's
Tyson's favorite arc.
Don't get me started.
It's a fun throwback, and yeah, I thought it was done well. I thought, you know, the performances nailed it. You know, the angles felt great. It was a huge, different beast. Yeah, big fan.
I would be remiss if I don't mention the character art in this whole episode, but especially this section, because everyone's GOAT. Now, Hiro Shintani, the basically main person in charge of the way that Dragon Ball Super Broly looks, is the one helming up this episode. And man, the whole episode looks so good. It's such a like really pleasing mix of this like modern Toriyama Nakatsuru approach that this whole all of Daima's doing, mixed with kind of this more classic Dragon Ball Z proportions with the faces, but also some like Shintani stuff. I just every single person in this episode, especially some of the close-ups, just looks so good. It's a joy to look at. It reminds me of, not to imply that Daima looks bad, obviously that is not true, but the contrast reminds me of back in the Super days when we would get a Takahashi episode, like the Vegeta versus Jiren thing, where just all of a sudden my like eyes are sparkling and my cheeks are blushing and I'm just looking at the screen, enjoying seeing these really cool drawings.
Just having a moment with these cartoon characters.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because it's not even an episode with like major like, whoa, there's animation happening right now. Like, sure, there's some of that with the Q stuff, absolutely, but it's more just like the little segments that pop up throughout. They're just like short beats, but they work so well. I mean, there's a great example of it. For example, when Goku is like trying to warn the second gang, like, oh
my god,
come this way. Like, he's doing all these like facial expressions and like stuff like that is so good. You know, there's loads of stuff like that throughout. It was just so wonderfully put together.
Oh, I love that sequence so much, by the way. I have no idea, like, I don't know through what means this scene got written in, but the fact that they spend what surely must have been like 30, 45 seconds just having Goku very obviously mime stop and everybody in the ship just being like, he's trying to tell us something. This really made me laugh.
Bulma's intelligence just completely gone.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
It was a good gag.
It's interesting because I think this episode is really one of like two halves. The first half is like all of this action and crazy set piece stuff, and it's a lot of fun. Like the Q stuff is goofy. You know, jumping around with a squid is kind of goofy, even if the Pansy stuff was like genuinely cool. But then we come into the second half, and it starts to feel, even though there's humor peppered throughout, I don't know if you also felt this, but it starts to feel a little bit bleak. Like, we run into like an abandoned Namekian village, and it's like, oh, okay, like that's
kind of what I've been waiting for, though, for this kind of entire, because like we have like obviously this place being the origin of so many different characters, including Shin and Kibito, and obviously then all the Namekians we've come to know in the series, and there must have been some sort of like impetus behind like why they left in the first place, but it's really sort of, I struggle to find a different word other than haunting, being in like the relic remains of like what was an old Namekian village, where like nature is sort of like reclaiming it. There's like moss growing over places. It's like places in ruin, really, effectively. And obviously beyond there being like the obvious callbacks to like it being so visually evocative of planet Namek from the Frieza saga, there is that kind of like melancholy that's kind of hanging in the air, because you sort of know that like, oh, this place used to be teeming with life and now it's not. And there's always been that sort of like element around the Namekians, even going as far back as the Frieza saga. That was sort of like the whole point of their characters, was that a race on the brink of extinction. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I do find it funny though, thinking that like even when they were in a rush to leave, they still brought plants with them.
Yeah.
So
not to reuse our favorite Daima word, but I think this is another nice subversion of expectations, where like at the outset, if you place your mind back, it's like 2.5 months ago and you're watching like episode 2 or 3 and you're like, okay, there are 3 demon worlds. One of them is like this like regular demon world. One of them is where this crazy demon king lives who's plotting. And then there's this one in the middle that's where all of our friends are from. The Kaioshin are from it and the Namekians are from it. You imagine that might be the like mid-act like chill bit, where Third Demon World is going to be a bunch of like crazy chaos. Final one's always going to have the final fight. And we get to like chill and stop and like check out some of where they're from. Now we're really getting kind of the opposite, where the Third Demon Realm really mostly chill. Like there's obviously lots of bandits trying to fuck shit up. But for the most part, they were just having a good time. And now they're in what kind of seemed like it would be the chill world. And there's just this kind of, I mean, like you said, Mark, it's just this like eerie sense of, I don't even know what. It's
the
just
Namekian graveyard vibes. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is
Also, they were
watching
slaves. Yeah. It's unnerving, I think, is what I would say.
Yeah. There's a lot of fun things that happen on Namek. Obviously, like, you have Goku taking like the bug thing. And I remember we kind of spoke about it before the stream, but there was like, I suppose sort of like Goku was taking it in sort of the same onus as like a sensu bean, where like, because sensu beans fill you as well as like replenish your stamina and heal all injuries and all that kind of stuff. But this is like sort of a slightly different effect, it seems, or at least we're given the impression that like it has changed. So like basically we're looking at like a bug that does kind of fill you up, but gives him a big rush of like stamina. Like you saw him kind of envelop in an aura, which was just a cool visual, I thought. And I think AJ mentioned as well that there's like an impact frame for that as well. So that was funny.
Yeah, it's interesting to see like how the bugs function differently. And I think that then starts making my mind tick around like, okay, well, if this that was like analogous to the sensu bean is different, how will the fusion bug be different? And how will my brain starts thinking about that. I'm like,
Yeah. If this is different, what else is different?
Oh my God.
Yes.
Okay. This probably won't make the final cut, but for you live folks watching, I've just now made a connection about a super chat from last week. Do you remember we got the random super chat about the like ants, that like breed of ant?
Yeah.
What?
That we said it was like
refresh
AJ.
my memory. Hold up.
We said it was like
Refresh
AJ. It eats until its like abdomen engorges and it just looks like super bloated and insane.
Okay.
Yeah. That was
the
of
bug.
Course. Did you not make that connection last week?
You didn't either. We were all like, well, that was random, but interesting to know.
What? No?
Well, no, but like the bug is obviously based on that. It looks like
I left that in the edit last week because I thought it was interesting. Because I thought it was about the bug. Obviously, none of this is going to make the edit. But like when I was editing it, I was thinking like we never really gave the context for why we spoke about this ant. maybe we all just thought it was so obvious that we just didn't even feel the need to provide context.
Okay.
I think this should definitely make the edit. That's my vote anyway. So yeah.
Okay. Let's see. What were we at?
Back on track. Well, I mean, the next thing I have in the notes here is that Majin Buu loses.
So unceremoniously.
Yeah.
Well, no, he's just an honest guy. He's like, hey, look, dude, you're better than me. Sorry. And like, yeah, I couldn't do it. My bad. How else can I serve you, master? It's very much the whole like, You know, I made the sort of like mental note that she looks very Bride of Frankenstein, and and Ku is sort of giving in this moment sort of like an Igor, sort of like this sort of like subservient sort of like imp. I mean, like, yeah.
He's almost kind of Hibis-like, where he seems kind of unbothered by his loss. He's very self-aware and fine with who he is. He's like, okay, I'll go fight him. Attempts it, loses, and he's like, okay, whatever.
I can see where you're going with the comparison to Hibis, but I would push back and say that like Hibis would be unique to him insofar as Hibis's sense of worth and self isn't tied to his ability to serve anybody. At least that's not what it appears to be the case. Whereas I feel like Ku derives a lot of enjoyment and meaning and, you know, purpose, and like he actively wants to serve Arinsu.
This motherfucker has been alive for 30 seconds and he's like,
Sure
oh,
has.
I'm really good at singing. And
Yeah, I'm good at
you
singing.
can send me shopping. I'm super fast. It's like, what? How do you have a personality yet? What is happening?
I mean, he's definitely part Boo. And God knows what else. So like he can get personality from everywhere.
That's true.
He's just so well developed, having been alive for half a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be fair, he had a really great opportunity to kind of like showcase who he is against the Tamagami. So
Not to take this in too weird of a direction, but it's occurring to me because like obviously, yeah, I agree that Majin Buu and Hibis are not really the same. I just was kind of drawing a comparison in how totally unbothered he is by declaring defeat and then waltzing over and being like, sorry, I couldn't beat it. It's occurring to me,
sure.
Mr. Popo is also kind of chronically an unbothered person. Is there just, in Toriyama's mind, a relationship between Popo lips and not giving a shit? Because Hibis also has those same lips.
Okay, not to bring up the Red Ribbon Army arc again, but was it Staff Officer Black? He had those lips, but his whole character was the fact that he was the only person who actually had like a sense of responsibility and cared about what the Red Ribbon Army were doing.
That's a bit tricky because now we're moving from this is a part of the character design to Toriyama is a little racist. Or at least was at the time.
That was what you brought up, Popo, not me. Okay, just leaving that there.
Yeah. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
All the modern characters we know with these lips are all supremely unbothered kings. I find that interesting.
That's certainly a better association than what was there before.
Yeah. We've improved upon the association.
Yeah, we'll roll with that. But I think like what made me laugh about this scene is that like Arinsu felt very like different here. Like she was so sinister and like, oh, I'm gonna be the next demon king, and oh, Maba, hatch me these new boos. And then she's like, oh, I'm so disappointed.
I'm
like,
disappointed in you,
like
young man.
A real parent.
She's quite she's quite almost petulant. Like I wouldn't say petulant, but she definitely seems like this was the first bit of her plan that didn't go according to plan.
Yeah.
So I was interested to see how she'd react, and like, yeah, she was disappointed, but I think we're sort of like, this doesn't really tell us that much about her character really, because she isn't in and of herself a rather serious character. She's definitely like the main, like, you know, tangible threat of the series. We haven't really seen what Goma can do necessarily without Dragon Balls. So like she and like, given her scene partner was Ku, who is goofy as fuck, there wasn't really much of a tone that she could kind of set without her just kind of like meeting him halfway and being sort of petulant. So yeah,
I wonder if her just general vibe is going to change now that she basically has a kid she's lugging around, because
yeah, what is she gonna do with Ku now?
Yeah, she's not just gonna like vaporize him. And I stay steadfast in my prediction that now the next step is making another one, because there was that whole bit when they were making Ku where Marba's like, hey, how deep you plant this is kind of like compromising your control. Don't plant it too deep or we'll end up with another Buu situation. So I could very much see a follow-up where she's like, all right, let's make Majin do. And she plants the seed even deeper and maybe get some other reagents and we get another Mook. And it's kind of like a Demon King Piccolo and his various little children situation. And I hope if that happens from that, Dr. Arinsu's character slowly kind of turns into this. What was originally the most serious, conniving character is now just having to babysit her creations.
It's weird because, like, given that she's trying to make a kind of like her own kind of push for the Dragon Balls, one would assume that at some point she'll have a Dragon Ball and therefore they will need to sort of contend with her in due time. It is strange to me that she went and made this like push for the Dragon Balls in the middle of the courtyard outside of the palace where Goma and Degasu are, and then they are like, what's happening here? What's going on here or whatever, like, and they just didn't know. Like, it was just like, it was all perfect timing, so that was kind of convenient. It was it him, and so that was kind of convenient. But I do wonder what sort of shape this will take. Are we just kind of like, is this coup iteration and whatever subsequent ones will follow, are they just delaying the inevitable, whereby she'll eventually need to concede and just, what, fuck it, I don't want control, but I do want to win, and just kind of like fists the entire sea down to the bottom of the cauldron or something like that.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're building to like a moment like that, having already established the fact that like, oh, well, the deeper you go, like, whatever. But like, come on, if you're going to say that, obviously you're going to have to like make the most fucking crazy evil shit you possibly can at some point. But yeah, it does come across like we're just kind of waiting for her to get this Dragon Ball, but just it's kind of hard to know when that will be.
Yeah, she will almost certainly get it. Like, I feel like that has to happen, and I think you're absolutely right that we do need a second Buu in some form. Yeah, I'll be interested to see what happens there, but I think with all of that said, we do need to move into, oh boy, buckle up.
Yeah.
The biggest,
There's a lot happening.
The just most insane lore drops. Good Lord. Well, I don't know where to begin. There's just so much here. So much.
Yeah. You're going to have to go through this for me, because even though I watched this segment twice, I was like, okay, this guy's talking a lot. So what was divulged? And then we can discuss the takeaways from it, I guess.
Well, good. I mean, as we mentioned earlier, like, the Namekians were kind of treated as little more than slaves here.
Yeah.
That was the first part. Then, God, we moved into Jesus Christ, Rhus. Look, let me just spend 2 seconds to complain about something, right? So They introduced this guy who, in the subs, they call him Rhus, who, he created the universes. His name is the word slime. Slime from Dragon Quest? It's that, but with the S moved to the back of the word. Why did they keep the R? Like, no. It should be Limus. It should be Limus. That's my nerdy nitpick of the week, that I'm annoyed with the subs cooler for not doing it. I don't care what sounds cooler. It's wrong.
I mean, it's clear you don't care what sounds cool. You say Cybermen, or what do you call the Cybermen again?
It's not what we call it. That's what their name is.
Hang on. It can be both. You do call it that, so shut up. I wasn't wrong. So what do you call it? Cybermen, is it?
Yeah.
That is the word that Toriyama wrote.
That just sounds horrific, but okay.
Okay, Mr. Fucking manga reader, how can you complain about Saibai?
Yeah, what?
It sounds like a dumb word.
You're a dumb word.
In the same way, words like embellish and befuddle are great to hear, and like, like to kind of like to meet your ears with, and just, oh, that's a great word. Saibai man is like just the worst.
Because Saibai means cultivation in Japanese.
I don't care
because
what it means. I'm talking about...
This is why they call them cultivars in the Viz.
What is this like anti-intellectualism? Your entire job is caring about this sort of thing. We put out like TikTok shorts all the time about insane shit like this.
You can tell me whatever word you want. That word can exist, and it can serve a purpose, and it can have an etymological root or whatever the fuck. That's fine. I'm just saying it sounds stupid, and I'm allowed to believe.
I'm calling them cultivars from now on.
Yeah,
that sounds cooler.
Well, that's what the Viz translation uses.
I'm gonna say Vegerot from now on too.
Also, Mark's not allowed to say Tinshin Han or lunch, or he's got to spell Frieza with an I from now on.
I actually only started calling Tien Tenshin Han because of TFS, genuinely, because like I was hearing it so often. Tenshin Han, that I just became Tenshin Han. That's
what
just
the
how
hell, bro?
Tenshin
Han sounds stupid as hell.
Yeah, well, no, Tenshin Han sounds kind of cool. That's a cool name.
Saibai Man sounds cool.
No, it doesn't. Oh. Saibai Man sounds like a really shitty thing. You'd like a really shitty villain from like what's that fucking Japanese children's show? Anpanman?
Yeah.
Is that? Yeah. It sounds like something from that. Like a bad one of those.
You're telling me the
Only-
guy who wrote Suppa Man in Dr. Slump wrote these little gag villains called Cybermen?
Only
I'm
on
not-
not a listen. No, stop. I'm cutting this conversation off because only on not a podcast would we find out who created the fucking universe in Dragon Ball, and instead bicker about Cybermen.
Yeah, Mark not liking their names.
Back on topic. Because
Yeah, we gotta
what the
rewind.
Okay, I gotta ask: is the implication here with Rhus that like he is above Zeno?
Well, so this has been the debate all week, right? Because people have been like, well, so does that like replace Zeno? So how does this work? And I believe what most people have landed on is that, well, for one, Zeno has never been described as a creator of anything, right? He, rules above all. He's all seeing. He can destroy things, and so I think people have kind of
universes
created this headcanon where like this dude is sort of the creation god, and Zeno's more of like the destruction god, like sort of overseeing different things.
Sort of like Kaioshin versus God of Destruction.
Yeah, so like Zeno sort of would maybe be considered the one who sees all of the gods of destruction, and this Rhus guy is the one who sees like over all of the Kaioshin, and then you have oh my god, what's his name? I've completely forgotten. The angel guy who oversees the angels.
The Grand
What's
Priest?
his name again? The Grand Priest, thank you. Like you have him who oversees those. I mean, we even name dropped Zalama. Was that? Forgotten the name though. Anyway, I think it's kind of like that, and we also, of course, got a name drop of the good like Supreme Demon King from back then. It's almost like they created like a kind of hierarchy of this episode of like, everyone gets like an overseer guy. That's kind of how I took this.
Everyone's typing in the chat that I think the Namekian legend guy is called Zalama, so I think you were right.
Oh, it was Zalama. Okay, good.
Yeah.
It's obviously headcanon at this point because they've not mentioned Zeno, but I think that is very much the purposeful idea here, not only because it makes sense, but because this guy is designed like Zeno. He has the same body shape and design elements, just with a different outfit, basically. So, it's clearly purposefully meant to be similar to Zeno, and given he's described as a different function, I think it's very reasonable to assume that is the purposeful intent here.
If you want to kind of make the argument that this guy's sort of in charge of the creation aspect, that would kind of make sense, considering what we've seen from Zeno is little more than just him destroying things. Like so, and like also the fact that like this guy's introduction, he was tied specifically with the introduction of all the different Supreme Kais. So like assigning them to different universes. So I mean that kind of theory tracks at least. It's not contradicted by anything.
It's an interesting one because like it all kind of gels, like just about. Like for example, I think some people forgot that like Shin did not know about Zeno's existence until the Champa arc. So like we have some wiggle room there, which is important. And I think like Zeno is considered it's just this absolutely terrifying power or whatever. But does that necessarily make him like top dog, or is he top dog because people are like scared of him? Is Rhus maybe like not powerful, or like is it just his ability to create that like that makes him considered near the top, or like what's the relationship there based on what they do?
We were given like this huge rush of like just information that I'm hoping will be unpacked in a more comprehensive and more integrated into the story manner as we move forward. But it's kind of difficult to make any sort of assumptions or guesses based on like what we have seen beyond what has just been explicitly told to us via Shin. So, I don't know.
It's baffling, and it makes me think like, well, what was the origin of the angels? Like, it just makes me think about the origin of all these different things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I suppose because like again, we were in Super, we were only really kind of focusing on the destruction aspect of different things with Zeno, whereas now we could potentially have answers to who created all these things, and it seems to be associated with this guy. But then it begs the question, who created this guy? Where did he come from?
Oh my god.
I know.
Dragon Ball asking the big questions of life.
I do
Who
want to
created
point
God?
out a couple of things from this area that I feel are getting overlooked. One of which is this, once again, another excellent joke in the lead up to this, where Shin's like, oh, it's quite a long story. May I tell it? And Goku just, nope. Nah, I'm fine.
Oh my, yeah. That was so good. Like nobody, I don't think they even said anything. They all just like kind of looked at him like, really, and just got on with the story.
Yeah.
That made me laugh. I also we've obviously talked some about getting to see Dabra's dad, Abra, but
yes,
we've gotten now this guy who is even before Abra. I think he looks really sick. I've not seen anybody posting about him, and it makes me upset because he looks cool.
For the audio listeners, we're talking about the good Great Demon King, who was trying to expand the demon realm. He's the guy in like the purple with the crazy cape and the horns. Looks like something straight out of Dragon Quest. I totally agree. One of the coolest designs we've seen in Daima so far. Absolutely adored that. That deserves so much praise. Love that.
It's kind of difficult for me to kind of like think about it. Like, so when I watch something, obviously the design looks cool and all that kind of stuff, but it's kind of secondary. Like, there's like the first thing I thought about when I saw him is like, okay, thinking back, does he bear any resemblance to any character I've ever seen ever? And it doesn't seem like he does. So I guess maybe it's not being spoken about because people can't really tie him to anything concrete yet. Maybe more information will come out about him. Maybe there won't be. Maybe this is just there just to kind of like say, this was the guy before Abra, if you were ever curious. So there you go.
I think for me, what this brought about was that it serves as a reminder that the demon world was not always this diabolical place. Like we've heard so many times, even back in episode 2, right? That like, things were okay. People could come and go. It was just another place. Like, sure, we call it the demon world, but it was just a place. And then it seemed to become corrupted over time, and is now just this like, I mean, it's a horrible place. It's a place with slavery. It's a place, where I mean, we have as we said, the desolate Namekian area. We've got these horrible people all vying for the throne. Like, it's not a nice place. And I think it's important to establish that it wasn't always the case, because it seems like we're leading to Goku sort of inadvertently setting an entire world and nation free just through rescuing his friend almost. And I think that's kind of like the crux of a lot of Goku's stories. Yeah,
no, for sure. I do like tied up in this entire like big expository dump, there's like obviously the reiteration on like the Glins and Shin's origin, him coming from a tree, and all the trees are gone now, and it's really sad. I do wonder, right, if the Glins are like acorns, could you like plant a Glind and that could then sprout a tree?
You can't just plant Shin in the ground.
I think that's called burying them when they die.
He's got well, see, like they're going to have to die in like at some point. And like, what do acorns do when they fall from trees? They create new trees. I think the logic there is flawless, personally.
That is a funny mental image, though.
There you go. So you just plant
his little mohawk just sticking out the soil.
Yeah, that could be that could be the shoot. You never know. But like, okay. So just to put a ribbon on this entire section, it is kind of like capped off with something that I wasn't anticipating, which was Neva just like coming out of the shadows. He's just been vibing there. What's his deal?
Yeah, I was surprised. I mean, maybe they will cover this in the next episode, but like, one point in this episode is that Goku senses that Vegeta and the gang are here and zooms off. Didn't sense this guy.
He is pretty old, so maybe he's just that weak. Maybe his strength lies in his magic rather than his ki.
I am curious to see the fact that he is staying on this like desolate, empty planet rather than just chilling with other people. Like, I know that it's still like, it's fine for him to do so because he might have some kind of cultural or like, emotional ties to this land. That makes sense. But he's all alone. And he did say, like, obviously, like, he was thrilled to see that there were other Namekians. You'd think that when they brought Dende back, he'd be staying
chilling there. Yeah.
Chilling, yeah, I don't know. It's just him being there alone. Like, there's two possibilities. Obviously, you have, like, one, he stays there and that's just where he is. Or he was waiting for them.
Well, you also have to remember this guy stinks. No one wants to be near him.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Yeah, but I mean, you can just wash him. He can have a wash. You can like, I mean, fuck it. There's magic. Why are the limitations with magic? Like, like in this world of magic, why do people need a shower? I ask. Why do people?
It's funny.
Yeah.
I continue to wonder if this guy is going to have a like sinister turn, or if it's just going to continue to be this guy looks kind of menacing, but he is actually just chill and doesn't shower and likes to vibe.
Yeah, I'm team vibe. He seems, I I don't get sinister vibes from him. I mean, obviously Toriyama is all about subverting characters and like, maybe there's something more to him. But like even at the end of this episode, like sure it's presented all sinister, like it ends on a close up of his goofy ass mouth. Like I don't.
Oh, that bit was the most unnerving part to me, actually.
Oh really? To me,
that's the most sinister
funny.
thing.
But if you found that sinister, fair enough.
I keep going back in my mind to like what Piccolo said about why the Namekians left. And he said, quote unquote, Namekians don't like to be ruled. And he's a Namekian. Yeah. So like one would think that like, he would share in that sentiment, and maybe whatever he's doing here is like playing the long game. Maybe he has a plan. Maybe this is all part of it. Who knows?
Yeah, that's a great shout.
We already have people like Goma and Degasu doing their own thing. I still think Degasu has like his own ulterior motives that he's doing, but we've got no indication of that, so that might not be real. But we know for certain that Arensu's doing her own thing. We have Goku doing that thing. This could just be the unseen, movements of Neva in the background. Who knows what he's doing? Because it does sort of align with what Piccolo said about Namekians, and he is sort of like the de facto oldest Namekian in existence right now. So
until we got to Hybus, he was my favorite character in Daima so far. So I'm stoked that we are presumably going to be getting more of him soon.
Yeah, I mean my prediction is I think I think you basically nailed it there. Like I think he probably isn't happy with what he's being used for, right? I think he's just probably tired, and I think he'll probably end up like joining us next episode. That sort of feels like the vibe that was going on here. I feel like we'll end up going that route, personally.
I do wonder if they will meet him at the beginning of the next week's episode. Just the way that it kind of concludes, it's sort of like he's kind of almost waiting for them to leave. But he does show himself before they do take off. So yeah, there's definitely a possibility there.
Yeah, it's hard to say because of course we get a very short but very exciting next episode preview that shows Vegeta fighting a Tamagami already. So like next episode gets to the point pretty fucking
We're booking
quickly,
it.
Unless this
We're
is
booking
like
it.
unless this is somehow the last 30 seconds. Like there's a lot of stuff going down this episode.
And interestingly, we do actually see Vegeta fighting. So it seems like it might not entirely be like episode 7 where we were like, oh, hey, he's going to fight. And then he meets the Tamagami at like minute 21. Like it seems like they'll probably get some actual fighting in here, which is sick.
Overall, I think, we really enjoyed this episode a lot. I mean, again, I will reiterate, for me, far and away my favorite episode of the series. I don't think either of you agree with that, but to me, I just thought this had everything. Like the pacing was there with all the plots. It was super funny, had some tension, had some crazy lore drops. Like it just felt like the show came alive in this episode, and yeah, it worked for me through and through. Adored it. Yeah, no,
I think I wouldn't say this is my favorite episode, but it's probably like up there. Maybe my second favorite.
I think it's my second favorite. Yeah,
second favorite. I still have like episode 8 as my favorite episode.
Yep.
But But this one's definitely up there, a high contender. I very much enjoyed the episode. It's great.
I think if it weren't for how funny this episode was, it might be like my third favorite or maybe even fourth. But this episode had by far the most out loud laughs for me.
Yeah.
Now really so elevated funny. Things. We have the first super chat from Unscathed Art, who simply says, "Hello guys, Mark looking Hinch, smelling good." That's the whole thing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dude, I have to jump in before you even say a word. There is a sponsor coming up towards the end of the month.
Oh yeah.
That really puts Mark's guns on display, so be sure to look out for that when the time comes.
I just want to reiterate before just to get ahead of any of this, that the clip that they're talking about was me just riffing on the camera, and then I immediately said, in that same clip, I can't be doing that. That's too crass or whatever.
Don't worry, I left it in.
Yeah.
Okay, you're humanizing me. Fair enough. Oh, by the way, on the whole smelling bad thing,
hey, he never smells good.
I do smell good, but that's off the back of me saying that I had a shower. They're not correlated. There's no correlation there. I don't smell bad, and I was actually like, I was half tempted to just have like my wife just stand off camera and just ask her the question, and for her to kind of share it with the group. Like, it was like apropos of nothing, giving her no context. I was like, hey, hon, do you think I smell bad? It was like, no, you never smell. I was like, yep. There you go.
Now, to be fair,
just so that I don't sound like a completely insane person.
To be fair, that's roughly the equivalent of being like, I'm going to have my mommy stand off camera. I'm going to ask her if I'm a handsome boy.
My mom would say that. Karen would take no hesitation. She would take
She'd say
absolute
you're ugly?
pleasure in just. She always says I'm ugly. Where do you think I get self-esteem issues from? I'm joking.
Okay.
What was the question? Did he?
There was no question. They were just saying you look good and probably smelled good.
Can we get more of those, please? That'd be really nice. Thank you.
Gin and Sofa podcast. They once again submit and they say, "Hey guys, do you think there will be a revealed connection between Piccolo and Neva?"
I suppose it depends on whether or not like Neva is revealed to be like. Well, actually, no. Sorry. Just to trip over my thought process again, isn't the Dragon Clan specifically responsible for creating the Dragon Balls?
That was the original explanation, yes.
And Piccolo is part of the Dragon Clan.
Yes.
So technically, they would need to be related?
Presumably. The same way that
because
like Shin is related to Aransu and stuff.
Knowing this show and the fact that like Piccolo in this episode is like, I have not been here, but my parent has been here. I could imagine a world where like never references Daimao maybe, but
or maybe even like Katatsk or whatever the fuck, like the legendary Namekian or whatever that he's derived from. Like, there's definitely some sort of like easy connection to be made there. I wouldn't be surprised if it's part of another one of those famous lore drops, you know, like it's like their care packages or like cutscenes where you just get this a whole wave of like information. Like, you've made it to this part. Congratulations. Here's the requisite expository dialogue.
I definitely like envision there being at least like a conversation between the two. Like that has to happen.
No, of course.
With Daima's adoration for dropping random ass lore, I guarantee whatever conversation they have will still manage to blow up the fucking internet because it would change something or add something, and everyone's like, "What?"
100%.
Very true.
Let's see. Pluvius submits. Not gonna lie, Majin Buu gives me big Janemba vibes. Bro looks like Nova Shenron mixed with second form Janemba. He was as advertised, Kid Buu but restrained.
Yeah, he does give off those kind of vibes, but like I don't like making connections as easy as it is with like design, like because like Toriyama famously has created a very extensive cast with a very limited pool of like minor tweaks and changes to like very similar shapes and whatever. To great effect, mind you, but like but I will say that it does make kind of like gauging the similarity of characters to inform plot much harder. I will say also that I do like the Janemba theory, just because we've seen that Toriyama isn't against the idea of just bringing back characters just because, or like canonizing characters just because. So like I could definitely see a world where Janemba is in this series in some shape or form. But like, again, I wouldn't put money on it, though I did joke about it on Twitter a few weeks back.
Everyone is obsessed with Janemba at the moment. There was a fake leak going around that the that the super manga was coming back, and it was teased with a sword in the ground, and people were like, "Oh my god, is it a Janemba sword?" Of course, the entire thing is fake, but like people have got Janemba on the brain right now.
To be honest, out of all the people that they could bring back and actually canonize, he would be the one that I would be most interested in, just if for no other reason, because like, again, I don't really like or haven't connected with any of the personalities from any of the non-canon movie villains, but when it came to Janemba, at the very least, I always did like his moveset. I thought it kind of like offered something very unique in terms of an enemy to face, just the way that he can like, you know, just dematerialize in such a, like, obviously it's not very animation friendly, and God help any animator that would have to animate that in the future if it does happen. But it is very cool.
I think a lot of people latch on to Janemba because he's one of the only Z movie villains ever to at least have a minimally interesting, like, concept, broadly speaking. Where like a lot of them are like, okay, here's Frieza again, but it's his brother. Or here's King Piccolo again, but he's different. Or
he's wearing a helmet.
Yeah, here's Bojack. What's his thing? Here's one single line of dialogue. That's it. Whereas with Janemba, it's kind of like within the context of the series, at least interesting, because it's like, oh, hey, here's our first look at like the like reincarnation process of Dragon Ball, and here he is a natural or an accidental consequence of it. Like, I think that is what allures people to Janemba more than some other characters. And I think it's cool.
I'm afraid I'm a famous hater of Fusion Reborn, so I will never be on the Janemba train. I'm sorry. Sorry, guys.
I don't think I could hate Fusion Reborn. There are like plenty of other, like, I hate like a lot of like classic Dragon Ball movies for
Yeah.
you know, I think reasons that are justified, but I don't think Fusion Reborn is the least offender of all of them, to be honest.
No,
I think my take on it is so extreme because people adore it, and I'm just like it's fine, I guess.
I don't like that you guys like it, so I have to hate it more to bring balance to my own perception of the
No,
universe.
it's okay,
Exactly.
AJ. It's okay, AJ. My partner, whom you know, is also very much in your camp of thinking that Fusion Reborn is way, way overrated. So it's not just you.
Let's go. There's two of us.
There's two of us.
There's dozens of us. This next one is a great super chat, or maybe the worst super chat. I'm not sure which one. SSJ Drink. They say, Mark, if you had Hakai but could immediately revert it, would Tyson be the first person you use it on?
It depends if it was painful. If it was painful, no. But if it
was painless, would I be the very first person you would use it on?
Yes.
I wouldn't. I probably would only use it as like a joke. I don't think I could like. If you really want me to be fucking serious about this,
Yeah,
kind
I'm
of,
gonna
like,
need you
really
to
ridiculous
really-
question.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
No, before you even say a word, Tyson would leave one single snarky comment in the work chat, and you would eviscerate him in 0.1 milliseconds. It wouldn't even be. There wouldn't even be a thought process. You'd be gone.
Whatever. Like I'm a very non-confrontational person, and I also don't like hurting people in any kind of way beyond just kind of like hurting their feelings. I don't. Like I think I'd probably lose sleep even if I joked about just like, you know, removing someone for like 10 seconds. That would be like that would fuck with me for like the rest of my life. So probably I wouldn't ever use it.
I think the correct answer is to use it on AJ because it would give AJ 10 seconds of the thing he adores most, sleep.
I think
True.
I think
Well, my question, right? If you get eviscerated, are you just like in stasis for however? Like, could you like yeet me now and then come back in 30 years and unyeet me, and I'm like the same age?
Now we're getting somewhere.
Well-
Pick me.
so like this would be weird because we're like this is sort of like an element of this that we're kind of adding in ourselves, because like isn't like the whole point of Hakai that you can't bring it back, that it's not
Of course,
dying,
but
it's
they
just,
specifically
you are just being
stipulated,
deleted.
but you can revert it.
Yeah, this is magic Hakai.
Well, then I guess it's just not Hakai, is it?
Don't look at me.
Okay, fun sponge.
Yeah. I'm just engaging with the question.
Like, yeah, I guess my answer would be I probably wouldn't use it because I don't know. I would probably feel
nice. I'm a goody two shoes.
well. If that's the impression you've got on me, then fantastic. Let's go with that.
Listen, your whole mantra has been kill them with kindness. Maybe you just don't think of it as Hakai. Think of it as a kindness for the world.
Kindness for the world.
Exactly.
Actually, you know what? I'd probably stop making YouTube videos if I had this power. I would probably feel an enormous sense of responsibility to like protect people, but I wouldn't even know how I could threaten people with protection, because who the fuck am I to just remove people from existence? Although if I am the kind of person, I'm getting into this now, if I do have this ability with the caveat that I can bring them back whenever I want, I could just apprehend people and just reapparate them in like a prison or whatever the fuck. So I'd probably be some kind of weird superhero.
Sean Russell says, since Goku was made a kid again, I feel it would be very fitting if the main villain was a Namekian again. That Namekian being Neva.
That has a nice kind of like poetry to it for sure.
Yeah.
But but there's nothing in this story that kind of gives me the impression that's where they're leaning. I respect the hustle to make this make sense, and in a way that is satisfying. I just can't see it. I don't know about you, but yeah, I personally can't see it.
I would be surprised, but it would be neat if it did happen. Though I suppose
for
that
sure.
does tread the line of getting into, because one of the big complaints that modern Dragon Ball gets is that every other bad guy is just old bad guy, but new again. Like, oh, we brought back Frieza. Oh, we brought back Cell. Oh, here's Goku, but he's evil. So that would kind of be treading that line where it's like, oh, here's Demon King Piccolo again. But I don't know if I would really complain about it because it would be sick. Okay, Zekin says, great episode. The next episode preview showing Vegeta fight number 2, so pacing's picking up. Do we think it sticks to the end? Presumably talking about the pacing. Also, this makes me think Piccolo fights number 3.
I guess if I agreed with this, I'd be going back on my prediction where I said earlier that I think Urgency will get the ball. Whatever she comes next, I think she will get that ball from 1. I think there won't be a 1 fight.
Yeah.
I think this will be it.
Yeah, because like it would make sense as well for like the ending being like, you know, they want to make a wish on the Demon World Dragon Balls, and to get there you have to defeat the big bad. It just sort of it's neater that way narratively. So I would be very surprised if they didn't take that route, particularly given what we've seen now. So my big prediction, if you could even call it a prediction at this point, is just we're gonna get like one more Tamagami fight, and that'll be Vegeta's one. Piccolo, his involvement in terms of a combat perspective might be limited, but I could see him doing some cool shit with the military police. But outside of that, I think like the next battle that will be substantial after Tamagami 1 or after Tamagami 2 will be some battle either with one of Arensu's minions or directly to the big Dragon Ball fight at the end. So which again, you know, we are halfway through, but I think if we are going after the second Tamagami in the next episode, that does leave a lot of space then, like, you know, with 10 episodes to kind of like figure out what the ending's going to be.
Moving on, Unscathed Art once again submits in. They say, I think instead of the Tamagamis now, there will be a new Majin Buu, or there will be a new Majin. Ku will absorb Goma. The other will do something else. Maybe go after Hybis, his belt?
I'm just trying to think about what the next Majin Ku could be called.
Yeah.
You got Majin Goo. You got Majin Blue.
So
you got Majin Nu. Majin Nu.
If they make another one, we probably already know roughly what he will be called, because there is now a rough like pun name scheme for the Majin Buu people.
Oh, really?
So obviously the original pun with Boo was Bibbidi Bobbidi
Yeah,
Boo.
Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo.
But it was kind of a double pun where Boo is also, like the way it's spelled, is also the Japanese onomatopoeia for fart. There's like even a direct joke about it in the manga where Mr. Satan's like, oh, here's my Boo, and he farts.
Okay.
And Ku is also, I don't remember, of course, as always, Herms has an explanation about this, but Ku is also a different like fart onomatopoeia adjacent type thing. So if we get another one, it will probably be another like fart sound.
Okay, so what are they, Mr. Japanese man? Come on.
I don't know. I'm reporting the news here. Don't look at me.
Hang on. You can't tickle my balls like that and not like just like, okay, like you say, this is all following a pattern. What's the pattern? If it's a pattern, you can predict what's happening. If it's not a pattern, you can't. But so what are you talking about? Is there no onomatopoeia for fart? I demand you Google it right now.
I'm Googling it right now. I'm looking up other Japanese onomatopoeia for fart. I'm seeing that poo is another one, which I guess makes sense.
Majin Poo. There's no way that will fly.
God,
Surely
it would be
not.
So good. Majin Poo. If the main bad guy is Majin Poo, every single like casual Dragon Ball fan would drop the series in 0.01 seconds if it was Majin Poo.
Is that really the only other one that you could find?
No, I didn't look that much into it. I'm sure there are plenty. Okay.
Tyson will report his findings next week.
The one thing I can say with some level of certainty, there are some people that are thinking that part of Ku's name is Abura Kudabura. This, as best I understand, is not true. And I think it's partially people think it because of the like Funimation dub names. Because Funimation changes Abra to, or Dabra to Dabura. So his original name in Japanese and in the subs and in the manga is Dabra, and it's literally just from Abracadabra. So it's like, it's not changed at all. It's just his name is Dabra from Abracadabra. Then course, now
fair.
Toei has kind of followed suit and then kept that in the subs now, which is confusing, but that's a whole separate conversation. So it's Abra and then Kadabra. Ku can't really work there because it would be Ka. So that doesn't quite track, but it is fart sounds. Noba fan, they say it feels most of the world building is meaningless. I guess this is a do you agree or disagree thing.
I guess my question would be, why does it feel meaningless? I mean, I suppose if they were just like dropping lore that had like no relevance, then like maybe. But so far it feels like most of the stuff that they've dropped has then like had relevance, right? Like the Namekian stuff that they mentioned in episode 2 is now starting to wrap back around again because we've just gotten to the Namekian world and it looks like we're about to speak to Neva. You know, the Kaioshin stuff is starting to wrap around as we saw, like they've just dropped this thing that like, oh, Kaioshin are finite. That's now a thing. I'm sure that like this big thing with Rhus will have some kind of relevance. Like it might not have immediate payoff where you understand, oh, they're telling us this because something is going to happen, whatever. Like it feels like they drop a thing and then it comes back later. Storytelling.
I guess I just don't understand what they mean by meaningless, just because like it's not any more meaningless than any piece of exposition that's happened in Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
So like I don't understand what you're getting at. Maybe I would imagine the vast majority of what's been revealed to us is going to be like, again, if your qualm is that it hasn't become relevant in the story yet, that's sort of a premature thing to think or say, rather, just because like if you want to make the argument that it's weird that they mentioned this thing and nothing came of it, then yeah, fine. Especially if there's an overabundance of it, like you're suggesting. But you can only really make that call when the series is over. Whereas now it's like only halfway through, you know?
Anyways, Red Blueberg submits in, Daima will end with Glintrees resurrecting? ?
I think there's a very real possibility that when a Glin's time is up, they return to the ground from whence they came.
Stop trying to plant shit.
I just think that's just a funny visual.
It is a really funny visual, though. Just the idea of like disturbed ground.
Of just like the kind of little mohawk sticking out of the ground. Yeah. That's great. Yeah.
I do think it would be cool if they found like the last Glind and just found like a tree somewhere. That feels like an RPG thing to do.
Reventaker says Dr. Aransu and Majin Buu have mother-son energy. 100%. Specifically single mother and son energy.
Man, you know what the interaction reminded me of? You know, have you seen the Babadook? Where she's like in the car and she's like, why can't you just be normal? Just screams. Yeah.
That kid in the Babadook was so annoying. I honest to God, don't know where she got the patience from, but I found that kid intolerable.
That's what makes it so good.
Oh my God. Like I was like, she was just saying exactly what we were all thinking. Just stop being such a fucking annoying prick. That's all you have to do. Sorry. Okay, go on. This is neither here nor there. If anyone's seen the Babadook, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, I'm sorry. We're moving on.
Yeah, I'm deeply lost, but I will let you guys have your Euro moment happily. This next question is my favorite one so far. Extremely valid. They say, Reventaker says, Namekians left the demon world to get away from Neva smell. I don't have proof, but I don't have any doubt either.
I would love if his like hygiene plays a factor in the plot in some sort of tangible capacity. Yeah. That would just be very funny. And I wouldn't put it outside the realms of possibility for Daima because it has been exceptionally funny. It's easily the funniest Dragon Ball property I think I've ever watched.
Okay, thoughts on this next one. Later Storm says, Vegeta going to lose the next episode.
Well, look.
That tracks. It depends on whether or not he points to himself with his thumb.
Yeah, he's either going to do a fist up or point to himself. But what we should really be asking is, will he grab his arm? Because we all know when Vegeta grabs his arm.
That's game over. That's game over.
I don't think he'll lose. I don't think he'll lose because it would have to be in front of Bulma, and I don't think that's possible. I think he'll take energy from Bulma if need be.
Interesting, like a theft sort of situation?
No, but like she's a huge source of motivation for him. And I feel like Vegeta, perhaps more so than any other character, is sort of driven by this kind of like locus to like protect people or protect the people that he loves. And so like, you know, if she's threatened in any capacity or if he feels maybe emasculated for whatever reason, I feel like her presence there could definitely give him the pick-me-up he needs. But I don't think he'll need it. I mean, like, there hasn't been any sort of confirmation that, like, as the Tamagamis, you know, count down to 1, they get stronger. So, like you know, Tamagami 1 or... Yeah?
Oh, I've got it. I've actually decided I agree with them. Because I think, here's my prediction, Vegeta's going to win the fight, and then he's going to lose the test of wit, and Piccolo's going to have to come in and do that.
That's a galaxy brain. 100%. Yeah. That'll happen. 100%.
Yeah.
Because he's not enlightened like Goku is.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yep. That's it.
That's a spoiler, guys. That's a spoiler.
Sorry. I accidentally looked at the script for the next episode. Arnolfo Mendez, who I pronounce their name right every time, says, do you think they're going to use the Krakens for something else down the line?
Tapping a Marin to you. What's the Kraken?
Great.
Very good, AJ.
Thank you.
How long were you sitting on that for?
I try.
The thing is like, top of the morning to you is something that no Irish person has ever said in the history of forever. But what's the crack is an Irish phrase. So that you get points for.
Tricky.
Jacksepticeye. He says it every time.
He does. Plays into the meme for the Americans.
Yeah.
Moving on. Kinocha submits, I find it odd that we seem to be insistent that this has to be canon to Super. So much so that we aren't even entertaining the possibility that it isn't. I agree.
Yeah.
For what it's worth.
Well, we saw Goku, so.
Oh shit! True.
Can't run away now.
Yeah.
It's not even so much so that we saw Goasu. We just kind of like it's more so that like, you know, I think even in episode 2, yeah, and I can't remember. It was either episode 2 or episode 3 when they were leaving Earth for the first time. Shin made a actually no, it was episode 1. Sorry, I tell a lie. It was there was a mention of Universe 7. So like the mention of that particular category sort of presupposes that okay, we're working at least in the same sort of like world as Super. So like I don't think there was ever really a meaningful point in this entire story where I thought that this couldn't work. It was just like more par for the course where Toriyama is like softly retconning a few things to make this fit kind of thing.
Yeah. The next super chat gives us a chance to correct something that we were mistaken on earlier. They say Odd Eyes says, do you think Goku is fusing with Nahare and Glorio? And that gives us a chance to clarify. Though earlier in this podcast's run, we speculated that maybe the fuse bugs were between 3 people. If you go back and look at the thing, it's actually just showing 2 people then going into 1 person. So it is between 2 people.
And the person that they turn into looks sad.
Keyblader 007 even says, big fan of your channel, Mark. All you guys are mad talented. Will AJ ever appear on camera? Be nice to see all 3 of you at least once.
Absolutely not.
If you're not super familiar with AJ, back on his own channel, he does have various videos of him vlogging in the past, like when he went to Kamehacon. So
no,
you can see what he looks like.
Yeah, I don't hide myself, but that's the only time I've ever been on camera.
He doesn't hide himself. He says while insisting he will never appear on camera.
Well, no.
Yeah.
Let me clarify. Yeah. I'm not like my what I look like is not a secret, is what I mean. But I am not particularly interested in being on camera for a number of reasons. One, I'm just a very self-conscious person and don't like to be on camera. 2,
I am an extremely self-conscious person, but go ahead.
2,
same.
I am extremely lazy. I barely have energy to do anything as it is. If I had to shower and look presentable for a podcast every single Monday, I would just never show up.
How dare you give me shit for not showering?
I can't believe I'm hearing this from the man that's helped me make fun of Mark for not showering.
Hey, I backed him up. I said it was okay some days. You can skip a day. I have presently skipped a day. I am greasy as hell. I'm currently wearing trackies and a shitty shirt. Like, I look a mess. You will never see me.
I am literally wearing tracksuit bottoms and a shitty shirt.
Yeah.
This is a Bret Hart
I'm
shirt.
just wearing a band shirt, and I spent about 2 seconds brushing my hair before getting on. Not even 3, which I could have used the extra second.
Okay,
I didn't
well,
even brush my hair.
let's go for part C then, which is
Okay.
the last time I showed my face, people were horrible. Not about my
Oh,
looks.
the panda eyes?
Yeah, not even like, oh, this guy's ugly. It was just, this motherfucker looks like he hasn't slept in 8 years. It's like, okay. So
It's literally my eye bag. The eye bag's under my eyes. Genetic. I can't get rid of them. Same issue. Yeah. But like, I don't get comments like that.
Yeah.
Or at least people just think I look tired, which is fine. I am tired, but that's besides the point.
Yeah, AJ's just a baby.
yeah, but yeah, my face is not a secret. You could literally Google like fucking anime AJ face, and I'm probably.
Oh, let's do that right now. Actually, that sounds sick. Anime AJ
Do it.
face.
Do it. Go for it. It'll be my KamehameCon.
Yeah, it
picture,
is
I'm
your
sure.
KamehameCon picture. I will be putting
Yeah.
The
it
worst
on the
part
stream.
about Googling my name on Google is that it'll always be that really fucking awful screen cap from
yeah.
easily the worst part of it. Like the worst moment of my entire career is just immortalized now. And I joke, but I sincerely hate that that's like what people will see
It's
when they Google
unfortunate
me.
for sure. In any case, we're approaching the end of the super chats. The final two, so we're just about done. Jolly D Joestar says, the uses of these Majins and knowing how they can be created really feeds into my Dragon Ball Online thought with how the Majins are a class in the game.
I haven't played the game, so
Right.
I'm probably useless at this question, but yeah.
So last week we talked about Dragon Ball Online and how much Toriyama wrote for it and how much lore it has and stuff.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
One of the there's lots of things, like Gohan becomes like he starts teaching Earthlings how to use ki and stuff, and that's how he's a nerd. And there's like how Goku and Vegeta finally die. One of the other things is that like Majins become a like race of people that like propagate and contribute to society beyond Buu. So
Okay, but like basically characters that look like they're inspired from like Majin Buu, and assuming he was some sort of race.
yeah, and I think in Dragon
Okay.
Ball Online, the explanation given is just that Buu can reproduce asexually, kind of like Demon King Piccolo, and so he just kind of sprouts an entire populace from him. But I agree that this also still plays into that, where it could just be, oh well, we just started growing Majin Buus, and now they're a whole thing.
I wonder if you planted a Majin Buu, would they grow a tree with more Majin Buus in them?
He's trying to plant shit in the ground again.
Oh, this guy.
I'm just so upset from the Cybermen battle, just
Yeah.
like really wanted that kind of like penis big explosion that going on.
All right, the very last super chat that was submitted before the cutoff from Mav Station says, think I have a theory about Hybis, where he might be the sort of modern Oolong, and he might save the day in the end in a funny way.
Oh, that would bring me so much joy. If Hybis was the GOAT of the series, oh
Yeah.
my god.
Imagine
Daima
yeah.
would be top. It would beat Dragon Ball, the original manga. It would just
That would be
instantly
Imagine-
great. That would be great.
Imagine if the kind of like the mechanism that allows him to make that wish before anybody else is the tertian oculus around his waist.
Yeah.
Oh, that
He
would
he
be
had
very
all of
funny.
the power all along. He was just busy eating chips.
That's the canon ending. That's also a spoiler, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, my bad again. That's
Is that it?
That's
Is that
it. That's
everything?
all the super chats.
Amazing. I get to go to bed now, which is a brilliant thing, obviously. But thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. As always, I was joined by Tyson and AJ. They've been great, taking your questions, moderating this entire thing so that I don't go completely insane and take us on a strange tangent where I talk about Shin being a seed to plant another tree. Though, fantastic time spent as that was. Also, thank you to everyone that donated. Your donations are immeasurably helpful, particularly around the holiday season. This, like, all the funds here go entirely to the artists, Tyson and AJ. So, thank you. All right, everybody, go away. I need to stop being online all the time now. Okay.
Bye,
I love
gang.
you all.
Bye. If you enjoyed this and would like to tune in live, be sure to head over to Totally Not Mark's main channel, where we live stream this podcast at 8 p.m. UK time. That's 2 p.m. Central every single week until the end of Daima. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.